Well, local food has a range of different definitions. It probably started in the US, although you can actually trace back in Europe, going much further back. But certainly in the mid-2000s in the US, there was a real strong push, and people called locavores, people who insisted on only eating food that was produced less than 100 kilometres from where they purchased it. So it was a big reaction in some respects against the industrialised model of agriculture and the globally traded model of agriculture, and it's grown a bit from there, and we're certainly seeing elements of that appearing in Australia, perhaps not to the same ferocity as some of the adherents in the US seem to have adopted it, but certainly you see frequently restaurant menus and food providers that insist on only local produce.
You say the US government is actively researching local food?
Yeah, the USDA, the US Department of Agriculture, has a whole research program around the local food movement and the economics of local food. Its definition is a little bit broader. It defines local food as food produced within 400 miles of its consumption or within the same state that it's consumed. So it goes a little bit broader than the locavores, which are much more rigorous, but certainly the same notion applies, that locally produced food is better for you and should be favoured.
The locavores, what's the point of their argument? What are they arguing, and why is local food better in their eyes? What's it doing?
Well, it seems to have two issues. One is the breaking up of the big globalised industrial food system, Food Inc., if you like, one of the authors called it. And I guess in the US, that's a reaction to things like very large industrialised, intensive agriculture facilities in the poultry and the pork and the dairy industry. So it seems to be a reaction against that and the dehumanising, if you like, of food systems, but also there's a pretty strong environmental imperative behind it, that shipping food all around the world can't be good for the environment, must be using lots and lots of fossil fuels, etc., and therefore if we stop doing that, we'll reduce that cost. So quite a strong environmental element to why local foods should be favoured as well.
How valid is the environmental argument that eating local food is better for the environment?
Well, on two grounds it doesn't seem to stack up. The first one is that the energy and the efficiency of transport is so good that you can ship product all around the world, and the transport cost is actually quite small in terms of the total cost of the product. So you can ship product from lamb or dairy product from New Zealand, landed on a supermarket shelf in the UK, often for less than half the energy footprint of the locally produced product that's only 200 miles away up in the Midlands of the UK. So it really just highlights that the energy cost associated with transport is actually quite small in the total scheme of things. The second thing it ignores is the efficiencies of specialisation. In other words, growing the right crop in the right location where it yields best.
Now at the moment we're flat out feeding everyone on the planet anyway. Are there ramifications for global food supply if everyone went local?
Certainly there are, and they don't just cover the two issues that we talked about, the environmental and the efficiency issue, but they also cover issues like massive failures in food systems. So famines were a regular feature of wars and the global environment, the political environment, for much of the last centuries or so. And in developed countries they've largely disappeared because, of course, if you have a failure in your local food system, you can rely on trade to make sure everyone still gets their food. So if we move to, for whatever reason, a strongly localised food production system, not only is the environment likely to suffer, not only is the efficiency of production likely to suffer, but it's also likely to increase the risk for those local populations that they will, for different reasons, run out of food on occasions, and that causes all sorts of problems. Yeah, so local foods bring a lot of benefits to local farmers because it means they've got a readily available market, which is usually at a premium. It can benefit local food processors and manufacturers because they can establish a local brand identity without the huge costs that are associated with trying to establish a national brand, which is what you need to get into the retailers. And it can also benefit the local community because, of course, you can bring tourism and local events around farmers markets and food fairs and those sorts of things. So there's absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, there's a lot of benefits associated with the local food movement, but it isn't necessarily environmentally beneficial or more efficient or likely to be able to be used to produce what the world needs in terms of future food supplies.